It's time now for your local hospital on the town. Brought to you by Sierra Nevada Memorial Hospital, Dignity Health. And now here's your host, Dr. Brian Evans.
Welcome to On the Town. This is the hospital version, the local hospital version of On the Town. I'm Dr. Brian Evans, the president and CEO of Sierra Nevada Memorial Hospital. Thank you very much for joining me today. I'm very pleased because we have a very special guest joining us today. And rather than coming out of the studio, we're actually in my office here at the hospital. My guest is Marty Lombardi, who is well known to the community for a variety of different activities. He's kind of a man about town. He's, the social influencer and social glue of Western Nevada County. Storyteller, board member on the Sierra Nevada Memorial Hospital Foundation, and many other activities. Welcome to the show, Marty. Really appreciate you being here.
Yeah, thank you. It's great being here with you, Brian.
Well, good. Hey, I want to talk about a number of different things that I think are relevant, not just to the hospital, but to residents throughout Nevada County, because of some of the things that you're involved in. And you're involved in all kinds of stuff. Everybody knows who you are. It just seems like you're everywhere. I mean, I try to hide from you most of the time, and you're just popping out of the
good judgment.
It's like you're stalking me or maybe everyone. I don't know. Are there more than one of you? I guess is my first question. Are there like dozens of you that are just kind of floating around the community?
No, I don't have a tether. So, like you working here at the hospital, I mean, I kind of move around from, I don't know. I get up at 4:30 in the morning, go for a run, and leave the house about 7 and get back around 5. Yeah,
there you go. You spend your time wisely.
No, it's perfect. Perfect place to spend time.
And it seems to me like you're really trying to get maximum use out of your time. You're really trying to invest your energy into things that matter. Is that fair to say?
Yeah. Folks, I've been on these KNCO programs in the past, and I'm always saying that's what we're put on this planet for, to extend ourselves on behalf of others. I mean, it just feels good.
Good. I want to talk about your role on the foundation board because I've been in this new position as CEO of the hospital for about 4 months now. And I've really gained an appreciation for how critical the hospital foundation is to the survival of our institution, and to make sure that the community is really engaged in what's happening. Why have you decided to participate in the foundation board?
Well, I relocated here. My heavens, it's going on 6 years. And I spent 41 years in Mendocino County in Ukiah. And I was a community banker there. I was on the board of the hospital. In fact, I was on the board of 5 different hospitals. And I just get inspired when I remember walking through Med-Surg. When you're on a board, you sit there and unfortunately it's all about shareholder value and the bottom line and what have you. And but when you walk through Med-Surg, when you walk where the patients are, and you walk through the emergency room, and you see the work that's being done there, not so much fixing the bodies as much as providing comfort and care when there really isn't an answer. And I wanted to be part of that. And when I moved over here, there were a couple of folks from Mendocino County that had called, Kimberly Parker, and a couple of the others associated with the board, and said, hey, you might want to take a look at this guy, for your board. And it's been wonderful for me. Yeah.
What's your view of the overriding mission of the foundation as it relates to the hospital for the other board members on the foundation? Is it you talked about the comfort that's provided to the patients, and that draws you in. What's your view of the commitment and the mission?
Well, having had the experience in the hospital industry, the misunderstanding is that, when people see these exorbitant charges and what have you, they think that there's a revenue stream that's truly adequate to cover their needs. First and foremost, a hospital, when you look at the two most important entities in a community, from my standpoint, it's the hospital and the education of community. I mean, that's what people think about when they are thinking about relocating to a community. And frankly, there's historically not an adequate revenue stream to operate. Yes, the funds are there, but we live in a remarkable time where there are changes in technology, changes in demographics, and if communities are going to attract mid-levels, physicians, and what have you to their community, they're going to have to compete on a level in terms of having adequate equipment and technology that supports the ambition of these care providers. Yep. And in my experience with the hospital profit and loss statements and what have you, they generate an adequate amount of money to accomplish their core competency, but certainly not for the capital expenditures. So these foundations are just absolutely essential. And this community's blessed to have the leadership in Kimberly Parker and this local Sierra Nevada Memorial Hospital Foundation, because they do incredible work. And the reason that they're able to do that incredible work is because this community, I've never lived in a community that's so giving.
That is true. It really is remarkable what Kimberly and Sandra Barrington and her entire team were able to accomplish with the foundation. And you mentioned the fact that hospitals do need to have an operating margin, and more rural community hospitals have a very difficult time maintaining an operating margin throughout the country. So many of them have closed across the United States that we really have to protect this asset. When you talk to folks in the community, who do you think they think owns the hospital?
Well, this comes up all the time, Brian. And it's hard to ignore that when you drive up 49 and you see Dignity Health on the building.
Sure, yeah.
Immediately you think that when they made a transition and joined the partnership with Dignity Health, that it became a Dignity Health entity. In truth, and many of the listeners know this, many do not know it, Sierra Nevada Memorial Hospital is an independently owned hospital, and it's owned by all of us.
Right.
It's owned by all of us.
That's it. You own the hospital, don't you, Marty?
No.
You're a co-owner.
Co-owner.
You're a
co-owner.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Right. We all own it. And, I do think that people have a misconception about ownership. And we are an affiliate, obviously, of a much larger system, which is Dignity Health, and now Common Spirit, which is a much larger national nonprofit healthcare system.
And, perhaps I imagine we're going to take a break here shortly.
Yep.
We ought to touch on why that partnership is so critical.
I think we should.
To the community.
I think we should. And I think now it is a good time for a short break. We'll be back right after this. Welcome back to On the Town. This is Dr. Brian Evans. I'm the president and CEO of Sierra Nevada Memorial Hospital. I'm joined by Marty Lombardi. Thanks for being with us, Marty. We were talking a little bit about your background, and you mentioned that you retired from banking and then relocated to this area. First of all, I want to ask you for a loan at a really low interest rate to refinance all of my personal debt, if that's okay.
Well, it's great.
That's
great.
Okay. So we'll talk offline about that.
Yeah, sure. And
okay.
And Brian, I've got this elbow that's bothering me.
Sure. We can work something out. We can work something out. Hey, you'd mentioned that, your understanding, when you talk to people about the hospital and the importance of it and the vulnerability of community hospitals out there nationally, one of the things about Sierra Nevada, even though we are owned by the community, and we are, though, affiliated with a much larger system. In your view, what are the advantages of that?
Well, you mentioned it earlier that there's a lot of consolidation in industry. I mean, in the banking industry, at one time, when I started in banking, there were 14,000 banks. There are about 6,500 now. Same thing in the medical industry. And frankly, we were talking about cash flow. There's not adequate cash flow to support the technology side, sometimes the marketing side, and successfully guide your organization. And so hospitals years ago, I don't know which year they changed, they struck this partnership with Dignity Health, but they went to Dignity Health. Dignity Health came to them and they said, listen, I think it's in the best interest of both entities to strike up a partnership, an agreement that Dignity Health will provide tech support and perhaps marketing support. And so many folks think that I've encountered here think that there's money that flows out to Dignity Health. There's nothing on the bottom line for Sierra Nevada Memorial Hospital goes to Dignity Health. There may be a fee for out-of-pocket service, subject to the contract and whatever, but that partnership is absolutely essential to the well-being of the community. I mean, they're just frankly the size of these hospitals like Dignity Health. I mean, post this merger, they were the largest. I always thought Kaiser was the largest in California. They were the largest in California. And post this merger, they'll be the largest in the United States.
Yeah.
And so that's a great alignment. It benefits, at the end of the day, it benefits this community. Yeah.
Yeah, and I can certainly, now that I'm in a different role in the hospital, I see all of the complexity of running a hospital and a healthcare system, and it's becoming more and more challenging for independent small hospitals, especially, to try to do everything themselves. It's sort of mind-boggling. I think that more and more independent hospitals will be trying to merge with other systems just to deal with the level of complexity involved. Marty, one of the things we talked about was you retired from Ukiah and came into Western Nevada County, and you chose to live here for your retirement time. A lot of people do that. This is a very popular place for people to retire. We recently had a visit from the National Advisory Committee on Rural Health and Human Services. They came to Sierra Nevada to sort of look at, what challenges folks when they're retired in a rural area. How do we help people age in place? How do we keep folks healthy as long as possible? What are your views on that? What are the challenges, do you think, for the retirement community, especially as people get into their 80s and 90s and that sort of thing up into this area?
Well, gravity's gravity. And, this isn't going to end well for any of us. I think that what attracted us to this community, 15 years ago, we brought my wife's mother to her 72nd high school reunion from Grass Valley High.
Wow.
And I said, how long does it take to get up to Sugar Bowl, and how long does it take to get here and there and what have you? For the next month or two, we walked through the streets here. People made eye contact. I saw on the social calendar there were 3 and 4 events every night. And when you're retiring, first and foremost, coming to a community, you're looking for what's the medical care like, huh? And then after that, you're trying to find your way because you've been doing something. I was a community banker for 44 years, and all of a sudden, like you're a CEO of a hospital, all of a sudden, and doctors have real difficulty, in my experience, retiring because all their lives they've been doc.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, their identity, if they cease doing that, and so you this community is just absolutely fertile soil for it. It's no. There's a good reason why. What is it? 25% of this county are 65 and older. Uh-huh. I mean, it's a quality of life issue. It's a place you come. My heavens, there's an organization for every group here. You've got an engagement, huh? You don't want to go to seed, huh? You recognize that you're running out of time, and for me, coming to this community, and I saw very quickly how engaged people were in this community, and I said, my whole life's been about connecting resource with need, and it didn't take me long to realize that this place is the epicenter for engagement in the community, for keeping vibrant. Yeah.
So connecting resource with need, and we're the hospital, and what are our responsibilities knowing that we have a very high number of retired folks in this community? How should we look at our responsibilities differently based on that fact?
Well, for me, obviously, doing the best job possible to have the most experienced and attract the most experienced personnel. I mean, what do you have? 800 and some odd employees, and what have you. And that's a chore in this day and age. Attracting people on those hospitals that I was on in Ukiah, it was always a challenge attracting folks. You may be able to attract the care provider, but then the spouse might want to be a little closer to Nordstrom's or vice versa, and what have you, and it becomes very, very tricky. So coming to this community, I think that the responsibility of the hospital, the bottom line for me, it's about the patient experience. It's all about the patient experience. I know that the struggle that industry has, maintaining the bottom line and the responsibility and whatever. But at the end of the day, it's all about the patient experience, and the people that I engaged there did a great job at it.
That's awesome. We're going to take a short break, and I want to talk a little bit about your engagement with the high school and youth of the county.
Great.
Welcome back to On the Town. I'm Dr. Brian Evans, the president and CEO of Sierra Nevada Memorial Hospital. I'm joined by Marty Lombardi, man about town, gadfly, social influencer, storyteller. Thanks for being with us, Marty. Really appreciate it. We've been talking about your history as a banker, retiring to the community, all your hard work on the foundation. But there's something that I know gives you tremendous joy and you're passionate about, and that's the youth of Nevada County and ensuring they are developing in a healthy community and they have opportunity. Tell me about what motivates you to do that.
Boy, I'll tell you, we had a luncheon for NEO. I'm on the board of NEO. I'm actually president of the board. It's an honor for me. And we were expressing the reasons why NEO, why the Friendship Club are so critically important. I mean, all of us know we've got grandchildren, we have children. This is a very complex world. When I chat with my friends and my peers, we talk about that our lives were simpler. There was something about it simpler. That word just keeps coming up. These kids today, many of them don't have, the definition of the family unit's been redefined. I mean, it was starting when I was young, but boy, I'll tell you, it's the single parenting, the diversity of what a family looks like. You've got kids that go home and they're exposed to 12 hours of Instagram, sometimes battering, bullying, so on and so forth. And for me, I just, even in banking, I remember telling the chairman of the board when he hired me, I was 25 years old. It was a small bank. And I said, what do you want from me? And he said, I want you to make me money. And I said, if I make you money, I'd like to tell you what I'd like. And so all my life in Mendocino County, I was woven into the fabric of the youth. And it gets me out of bed in the morning. Everyone's just trying to find their way. And all we need is encouragement. I mean, not kids, the adults. We just need encouragement. And, I'm blessed to be in this community, that the high school allows me to kind of go in any class. I'm up there every day. I'm on the board of Friendship Club with the great work Jennifer Singer does there, NEO, and every other youth project that I can possibly get associated with. I want the kids, everything's about relationships. And, if someone came up to you when you were in school and said, hey, Brian, David, hey, if you need anything, come see me. I said, forget about it. What? But if you develop a relationship with them, if they see you all the time and you're saying, hey, listen, I'm here for you and whatever, they come and they'll ask me for things that ordinarily may not. And I can, again, it's connecting resource with need. That's why I talked to you, Brian, about, hey, what can we do at the hospital? And I know that there are HIPAA limitations and so on and so forth. Sure. There were privacy issues at the bank, huh? I mean, if customers saw their children's high school friends behind the counter and whatever, there was that same ambivalence. But we worked around it, and the community embraced us for it. Mm-hmm. And it wasn't so much that we exposed the children to anything here technically. It was taking them out of their comfort zone. They think that you and I, the three of us, have a different background than we do. And when they ask you, what's your background? A lot of times they can see themselves in you.
Right.
And that exposure is so critically important.
When you talk to other folks that are retired in the area, sometimes I'll hear things like, well, these kids today are, fill in the blank, and that they're somehow different than the generations before them. Is it that they're different, or is it they're in an environment that's much more challenging?
Yeah, I mean, they're in an environment much more, at least the perception of all of us is that we grew up in the golden years. I don't know how to put our fingers on that and whatever, but we grew up in the, hey, I'm telling you that I'm exposed to these kids all the time. And a lot of times we're looking at the jewelry or we're looking at the body art and we don't see the person. They are kind, caring, they volunteer. Sure, every so often lose their way. I mean, I always say, but by the grace of God. I grew up in North Beach in San Francisco, and by the grace of God, I landed where I landed, but it could have gone another direction. It could have gone another direction. And so I say to them, engage them. Tell them your story. Let them know. People say, what do you do up at the high school? It's fundamental. I say, I just let the students know I'm there for them. I'll have kids 35 years old from Mendocino, 40 years old. They get a hold of me and say, I want to thank you. And I never did anything for them other than say, I'm there for you.
Yeah.
And that will help mitigate this kind of crazy world that we're in and what they're having to assimilate.
So these connections are what they really need. And you mentioned a couple organizations, NEO, the Friendship Club. And so for folks that are listening, would you recommend to them to reach out to those organizations, see how they can get involved, see how they can contribute?
Oh, my. Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, NEO, for instance, is a youth center. I mean, it's a place to kind of go hang. And I'm telling you that if you walked into NEO and kind of looked at the kids and whatever, or saw them hanging out outside, you'd go, oh, my, I'm not sure I want my... These kids are absolutely great. They'll help. It is a safe and supportive environment. Friendship Club is a little different model. I mean, NEO has, they had 600 different children come to NEO, 400 on semi-regular basis. Friendship Club has this wonderful place for young women between the ages of 10 and 18 and beyond that have pretty challenged backgrounds.
Yeah.
They're not victims.
Yeah.
Or you go and I engage those kids in whatever, man, they are proud of who they are and what have you. But, boy, they could use that support. And so, who wouldn't want to be associated with that kind of great work?
Yeah. It feels like you really look for ways where you can connect to the youth. You've figured out ways to make connections instead of building walls. And it seems like that's really what we need to do more of in this county. I really want to thank you, not only for your time here today, but your contributions you make to Nevada County, to the hospital, to the youth, to everybody.
I'll tell you, we are blessed to have you back in the community.
Well, I appreciate that, Marty.
We are. I mean, you know that I sit on committees with you from time to time, and I see your engagement and willingness to embrace this community and work on its behalf.
Thank you, Marty. It's been a pleasure talking with you. Marty Labardi, really appreciate it. We'll talk about that loan that we want to restructure after the break here.
In my elbow.
This is Dr. Brian Evans, President and CEO of Sierra Nevada Memorial Hospital, and this has been On the Town.
This has been Your Local Hospital on the Town, brought to you by Sierra Nevada Memorial Hospital Dignity Health. Listen to fourth Monday of every month to learn more about your local hospital.